Alright, we're gonna do this one take because I can't afford to edit this video again like I did. Just spent 4 hours on it and then delete it on accident. I don't have that much sanity left in me, so we're just gonna send it. So my topic that I chose for this persuasive speech is why athletes should never be role models for kids. And basically, I'm not gonna go either way on this. I'm really just gonna say, first and foremost, should they be? And then I'm just going to kind of leave it up for discussion. So let's dive in. I'm Tim. This is Communicating Mindfully. Let's dive in here. So throughout time, people have been looking up to athletes, celebrities, role model, whatever you want to call it, as role models and as a social influence. And as of late, people don't really believe in this. They think it's kind of a bad thing. And I'm going to explain why people think it's a bad thing. Especially parents nowadays and the people who write these articles that I've been reading for sources believe that this is a bad thing because celebrities are not humanized like regular humans. They are under a microscope, but not the same microscope, say, powerful people actually are that should be motivating these kids, like presidents, governors, parents, people of actual power that actually have an effect to these kids' lives. They're not under the same microscope as those powerful people. They're under a fictitious microscope that doesn't tell the truth. And what I mean by that is these corporations and companies, and I know I'm getting kind of sidetracked here, these corporations and companies, this is the underlying issue right here. These corporations and companies are what makes these people out to be the role models that they are. So, if you look at Nike, for instance, Nike is a corporation that is looking to make money. They don't care about anything else. They care about the people and the freedom and the equality. No, they don't care. They want money. That's what drives everything. Nike is looking at making certain people like LeBron James into a role model for a young kid so that he wants to buy their stuff. Granted, he can't buy their stuff, but their parents buy their stuff. So, by Nike creating an image of LeBron James to be this superhero, it makes them sell product, which in turn creates revenue. You get the picture. So for Nike to do this is essentially corrupting the minds of all other role models in this certain situation. Because real role models, and this is what parents are advocating, real role models are supposed to be humanized people. They make mistakes, they make the better of their mistakes, but they do make mistakes. And that is what they're trying to get kids to believe in nowadays, is that role models always have the people's best interests at heart. So if you take any parent, a good parent, so to speak, they get dealt a crappy hand on, any sort of situation. What they're going to do is they're going to try and take their best out of that situation and provide the best opportunity for their child that they can. And that I do agree with. I do think that that is something that should be admired. And I think that is what makes a great role model, is selflessness. But for most people, athletes are just easier. Because what kid truly sees their parent in that kind of way? They're kids. They can't handle that type of tough critical thinking to understand and have that stuff not even explained but just ingrained in their mind without someone telling them directly. They need someone to tell them things directly because they're kids. And that's why I think the parents' argument in this situation of athletes not being role models is somewhat invalid, is because kids are kids and they're gonna dream, and that's what having role models as athletes do. But then here's another perspective, the one that nobody takes. It's not necessarily athletes should or shouldn't be role models. It's not either the parent's side or the kid's side. It's the athlete's side. Now the athletes, take Charles Barkley for instance, who is quoted for saying, "I am not a role model. Parents should be role models. Just because I can dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kids." Now that's a great quote by Charles Barkley. Basically proving my point that athletes are under a microscope that can be changed, corrupted, built up, broken down by any means of a corporation because they need to make revenue. Charles Barkley wanted to go out and play basketball. Sure, he would take being a role model for kids. Who wouldn't? I love that. Don't lie to me. You would love that too. But that wasn't his primary goal in playing basketball, and that's nobody of an athlete's primary goal. Do you think Steph Curry wakes up and says, today, I'm going to be a great role model for young kids across America? Or does he wake up and he says, you know what, today, I'm going to absolutely slaughter the Toronto Raptors? Which one do you think he says? It's a no-brainer. No one thinks that way. Which is why it's bad that these companies, and it's good that the parents are onto this, it's bad that these companies are making these people, celebrities, out to be this, because they think the same way we do, as humans. Not as gods, not as Jesus. You know, they're not going to be this holy force that says everything for the best of the people. They're selfless just like these corporations. But Barkley's point, to his credit, is correct. A lot of athletes don't want to be put under the microscope of a corporation. Because corporations, although they do bring that athlete revenue, can destroy that athlete. They can also bring them up, but they can destroy them. Take Colin Kaepernick, for instance. Let's use this imaginary line here. Actually, you know what? Let's use this. Let's just pretend I'm presenting in class and someone wrote something on the board before me, so now I'm going to erase it and write my own little thing here. Okay, let's see what I can see here. Okay, start here. Let's take Colin Kaepernick, for instance. Colin Kaepernick starts here. C-K. It's hard to see. I'll move the phone. Yeah, okay. Colin Kaepernick is going to start here, CK. Everything might be backwards, but you'll get the gist of it. Let's pretend it's kind of like the stock market, and this is how his graph of his publicity and overall stature and like how people view him is the line. Colin Kaepernick started here, and this is probably going to be like the average person will say is down here, this little trend line. Colin Kaepernick started here. Why? Because he played for the San Francisco 49ers. So you got kids, young kids, looking up to this guy just because he's an NFL quarterback. And he's good. Matter of opinion, but whatever. He's good. So you've got Colin Kaepernick being a good quarterback for the NFL. Then you've got his little controversy that he sparked for whatever reason, let's say. And it just plummeted his stock to below the average line of an average person. Now, why? It is not whether or not people saw that as a smart move, because it doesn't matter if most people saw it. Let's just say it's 50-50. Some people saw it as a good move, some people didn't, by taking a knee and doing whatever he did. The corporation dropped him. I don't care. They see a problem. The NFL, corporation, not a sports league, it's a corporation when you think about it. It's a franchise, it's a moneymaker. Dropped him because they didn't want that. They don't want that publicity. Because they know 50-50, your publicity is still going down. So his publicity, let's say, goes down. Then he's down here. And everybody remembers that kind of bubble, or don't remember it, where no one heard from him for months. Then all of a sudden, Nike sees an opportunity, and boom, he's back up here. Because this is where the 50-50 would go good. So what I mean by that, just not good on my lamp. When I say 50-50, is that good publicity or bad publicity? It can turn things certain ways. But if you're being looked at half of the population, if you're being looked at half of them as bad, that's bad. You can't be both. So, what Nike did by bringing him out of the gutter was they labeled him as a social justice warrior, which was a smart move by them. But he was a social justice warrior in the beginning, no? It's all a matter of organization of how it worked. So when Colin Kaepernick first started, he was here. Some would consider him a social justice warrior, not when he was playing, but when he started to take a knee. So then he takes a knee and it drops. Half the people are for it, half the people are against it. Regardless, that's it for him. He's flatlined. He's basically dead to the world. Then Nike pulls him out of there. Now, what Nike basically did was created a hero out of Colin Kaepernick. And that hero, he doesn't probably realize they can spin and drop like just a bad habit. They can drop him anytime they want. So now he's a role model. If you look at this as like a role model perspective, let's say half the population, say 80% of people, especially in the San Francisco area, loves Colin Kaepernick. Then 50-50. That's a drop. Obviously, now you get the 50-50. So now he's down here. Then he picks up with the Nike equality movement. So now he's a role model again. Do you see how quickly the corporation took him as a role model, being sponsored by the NFL, to dropped off completely? Nike forgot about him, to pulling him back up. The corporation had him by the balls, so to speak, the entire time. The man said what he wanted said. Maybe he didn't say it properly, but Nike was the one who had it in the first place. And that's the problem with what these corporations are doing for role models. Is if we go back to this Charles Barkley ad, Charles Barkley didn't want to become a symbol after this, and he did. Nike made him into this bad boy of a person because, yeah, he got into fights on the court and he kind of trash talked and everything like that. He's like the Fonzie type. Like, Fonzie wasn't supposed to be an image, but it turned out to be because a corporation kind of put their spin on it and all of a sudden made it into a fad. Then what the players are basically saying is they just don't want to be under this microscope. It's too much pressure because they are under a lot of pressure. You have to give them credit. So you've seen the parents' side and you've seen the players' side. Players don't really want to be role models. The parents don't want them as role models. They think they should be role models. And the players sometimes want to be role models. It's hard to say. But they really don't want to be under that microscope that can move them around up and down. So, where do I lie in all of this? My opinion with this whole situation is that role models should never be looked at as if they're Jesus. And you can quote me on that. Role models shouldn't be looked at as everything they say is true, correct. You should live by it, and you need to hear everything they say. Role models should be used as tools, especially athletes. They should be used as tools to get from one page of your life to the next. And what I mean by that is most people use role models when they're in a tough situation in their life. So say any pro athlete will take. Let's just say LeBron James, for instance, because everybody knows his name. If you go back and you listen to some of the things LeBron said, especially on the documentary that he has, what drove him so hard to get out of Akron, Ohio, where he lived in the slums? 1, his awful life that he was dealt with on a day-to-day life, and 2, the dream that he had. And where did he get the dream? Did he come up with it on his own? No. He got it from Michael Jordan. He got it from a role model. It doesn't matter who it was, but he got it from a person that was up here, living in the laps of luxury and creating an image. And Michael Jordan wasn't like nobody else, but to him, Michael Jordan was a god. But what the kid isn't realizing is that it's not about what Michael Jordan says or does. It's about the happiness that appears Michael Jordan has. And that is what a role model should be used for. Is creating kind of a distraction to whatever you're doing and forcing you to live in the present and even the future, but not a negative future, a positive future. That's what a role model does. It gets rid of the dark clouds. Metaphorically, it gets rid of them, but it gets rid of them. For me, this hits hard to home because I went through, recently, a couple months ago, a pretty bad breakup. And I don't like to talk about it because it was bad. And it pretty much broke me. And I didn't really know what to do. I played basketball all through high school and that was over. And so my one outlet for frustrations and things was gone. So I needed something to help me. So as you can see in my room, here's visual aid part 2. I've got Arnold, Kai Green, more Arnold Schwarzenegger, and there's a Superman poster over there, and there are posters around me that symbolize not that I want to be Arnold or Kai, and I want to look like them, but symbolizes a little bit of like this little, just like little sprinkle of happiness that I could have. Because when I'm in the gym, I'm not thinking about how bad the breakup was and how I miss said person or any of the crappy drama parts about a breakup. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about looking like Arnold. And that is what a role model means to me, and what it should mean to everybody. Is a symbol and an opportunity to live in the moment. So really, to conclude my thoughts here on this topic, I'm not for athletes being full out role models in the literal sense of what people have as role models. I'm not for parents being role models. And I feel both sides, the parents' side and the athlete side and the kid's side. But my real opinion is that role models should be used as motivation to pull people from a dark place, because that's what LeBron did with Michael Jordan, that's what I did with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kai Green, and that's what I did with every single role model I've ever had, is to pull me from a place where I don't want to be. It forces me to live in the present, and it forces me to think about the future positively, not negatively, which is what people are afraid of. That's why they get role models in the first place. So motivation and the pursuit of happiness is what role models truly are to people. And the faster that people can realize that, the quicker this conversation and topic will dissolve altogether. Because it's not about if athletes should be role models or if they shouldn't. It's about how to use these role models to propel human beings to being the best that they can truly be. Thank you.